Hey there, I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Alrighty, folks. Tonight, have a little change of pace, have a guest joining us from the great state of Georgia, right down below me here. A gentleman by the name of John Simpson, who runs Peach State Defense Solutions. John, welcome to the Gun Club, sir.
Thanks for having me, Sully.
Hey, not a problem, not a problem. It's like I was saying when we were talking before, I want to help a lot of the other instructors get their message out, their word out. I think, overall, the 2A community as a whole has got to work as a team.
Absolutely.
It's not I and me, it's us and we. There are, whether I'm a, good or great or whatever instructor, there's a lot of other great instructors out there all over the country. And, that's the one great thing about going on the internet and doing this stuff. We can actually, all get our message out.
Right.
And we can build this community.
Absolutely.
Because I've said for at least the last year or so, we're dealing with a 25-50-25 situation. There's 25% of the world out there that they are the 2A crew. They're the protectors. They're the ones who are ready for anything, carrying, trained, whatever. There's 25% of the world that they're not going to let one of those bang things in their damn house. They don't care what happens. Right. And then we got 50% in the middle that they haven't really decided. They don't know. They don't have a lot of training. And the real bad part is they don't have the information. They don't have the knowledge base. They didn't grow up around it. And I mean, I was in that 50%. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't talk about it before, but I mean, I grew up in New York, where you know what laws are up there.
Right.
We didn't have a single one in the house.
Right.
Up till 19 years old, I lived up there. But by dumb luck, after moving to North Carolina, I ran into a lot of people who were very much in the 2A community.
Absolutely.
And so it's like I got a lot of education that even my parents didn't have.
Right.
And my mother, God rest her soul, even when I was working in law enforcement and stopped by the house after shift one day, and I'd taken off the uniform shirt and the vest, but I still had the black T-shirt on, full duty rig, the brown pants with the pretty little tan stripe down the side of them. And she looks at me, "What's that?" My service weapon. "Why'd you bring that damn thing in my house?" "Mom, it's fine. It's fine, really."
Right.
It's a Smith 686. It's fine. It's just sitting there. It's not going to do anything. What if it goes off? It didn't all night last night. It probably won't now.
Right. But, absolutely.
And again, people like her, they didn't know. And it wasn't until even, she never changed her mind, but she finally realized at the point of, okay, they don't jump off the table and shoot people.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly is about who's behind the gun that counts.
Well, it's also that, and it's fear. I get it. Fear is a motivator, and lack of knowledge breeds fear.
Yeah. Fear can be a good thing to a certain extent, because if you're not scared at all, that can lead you to be reckless. But it's all about mitigating that. And you were saying that there's different. There's the 25% that are in the club. In the 2A camp, and then there's the rest of them that aren't. But one of the hard things to get through is to that 25% who think that they are trained up and proficient and everything like that. Those are the ones that are hard to get through to, because there's a bunch of people who have 38 guns in their house and not a clue how to use either of them. So
right.
Right.
But, and I know there's that group, but there's also, the group that we see a lot of times that they're open to the training, they're open to the idea of it, but some of their concern is, for example, I've got somebody who I've been working with privately, one-on-one a lot. She is a very good friend of mine. I've known her husband for years through EMS, and I was his training officer for a while at EMS. He's not in the 2A camp at all, nor is he ever going to want to be, and that's fine. But we're all out one night sitting having dinner, and I look at her across the table and I'm like, you work like a weird schedule. You work nights, you work downtown sometimes, you stay over late, you know, have you ever considered? And he started to answer for her, and I looked and I said, look, I'm not worried about training you. Someone grabs you, drags you into the bushes, I could really care less. But I'm concerned about her. I'm
Right.
about her well-being.
Yeah.
You're big, dumb, and ugly. You can fight with them. She's not. She's she's the living persona of Minnie Mouse. Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing but sweetness and light and Disney characters.
Right. I have a lot of students like that.
But
I've taught more not only women but beginners than anything, which end up being really my best students to work with are the beginners, because you don't have a lot of bad habits to break down. You can kind of start from scratch with them.
Well, and my thing is, women are now the biggest growing part of the 2A community.
Absolutely.
They're suddenly realizing, and I know I posted something the other day on the Twix account for the gun club that was it was Lauren Liberty when she was testifying about when she was attacked. And Lauren Liberty, she's out of Arizona. She's big with ladies for women for firearms, but she said, she went to a gun-free zone for an event, left her firearm at home like a good girl, and got attacked at it.
Yep.
And she's testified before, Senate hearings in Arizona. I've got a great clip of her testifying. I'm not using it tonight, probably in the next month or so. And the senator actually told her, this is an Arizona state senator, told her that if you're so scared, maybe you should just stay home.
Yeah, and you just had that, I can't remember if she was a senator or a congresswoman, or may have been the governor of Arizona, who tried to temporarily just suspend
2A rights.
The Second Amendment rights for people, which is just mind-boggling to me.
That we did a special. I did a couple shows on her, on that whole thing. I think she was the governor of New Mexico.
Okay, yeah. It might have been New Mexico,
right? It was Michelle Lujan Grisham, and it was and they started as you couldn't carry in any public place in the city or in Bernalillo County. They then redid and changed that and did it where you couldn't carry in parks, playgrounds, and there was like one other thing.
Yeah.
And my thought was, okay, if we're going to make all these parks and playground gun-free zones, guess where you can find moms with kids during the day that you guarantee will be unarmed?
Right. Exactly.
Hey, bad guys, here's your gun-free zone.
Yeah. Yeah, there seems to be a disconnect there at that level where they think that making it a gun-free zone is going to make it a gun-free zone for the people who wish to do harm. Well, those people have no intention of following that
the law
at all. So,
yeah, and until unfortunately the political class or elected class can come up with gun control laws only affect those individuals who obey the law, and those probably aren't the ones causing the problems. And so, where are we at?
Yeah,
but
it's a very difficult thing with no easy solution. I get a lot of people. I have friends, a lot of friends who are not as involved with guns. And they'll kind of propose the question to me as if I have an answer, and I don't have an answer, unfortunately, to a lot.
Think you froze for a second there. Okay,
my back.
You're back.
I'm back.
You froze for a second. I'm thinking you're saying you get the same question I get as far as, so what do we do about it then?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the answers, and I unfortunately don't. I mean, I just know that, in my opinion, I know this isn't the cat is kind of out of the bag as far as AR-15s and things like that. I don't think people realize how saturated, the country is with those type rifles,
Right.
and how a lot of people who are for banning the AR-15, I don't think they understand what goes into making an AR-15, and they think that if a ban was put in place, it would immediately be impossible for people to get an AR-15. And I like to tell them that, I could go online right now and within 15 minutes from 15 different websites order all the parts that it takes to put together and assemble an AR-15. Well, the government would have to then go after all of those online industries and everything like that, and go after everybody, the 9 million people in the country with a 3D printer, and have the ability to do that. So I just think there's definitely a lack of education there. And people on my side who are for guns, I think they waste a lot of breath trying to educate people who aren't for it. And the people who aren't for it, I've realized over the past couple of years that they don't want to educate themselves on it. And part of me can relate to that, because there's a lot of issues that I'm against that I don't have enough time in the day to educate myself on. So,
Right.
and I've kind of realized that, and kind of strayed away from having those conversations too much, even though I like to try and educate people.
Right. Well, and I think the thing with me overall with the whole, even with ARs or whatever, the AR, number one, they're out there, and you'd be surprised. I was telling you about my friend Minnie. I took her and her 70-something-year-old mother, who's got rheumatoid arthritis, to an outdoor range, and on day one had them both comfortable firing an AR-15.
Right.
Because the sheer construction of it, the shock absorption that the buffer tube provides, everything else. And once I explained to them, it may look big and bad and mean and awful and rotten and nasty, but it's not. It's really not.
A lot of people, I've had a lot of people think that as well. It definitely looks big and
it looks
scary.
worse than it is.
Yeah, and I teach this in my class, especially the extended class that or the intermediate class, that the size of the bullet there's no difference in the size of the actual projectile of a 22 caliber bullet and a 223, which is the AR-15 round. Now the damage comes from the velocity of it.
Right.
So the diameter of a 22 bullet and the diameter of a AR-15 round are the exact same thing.
Right.
So, it's not to say that the AR-15 is less dangerous or anything like that, but there's just so much. A lot of people think that the reason you can't use an AR-15 to hunt is because it destroys the deer. Well,
it's actually too small.
Yeah, a deer hunting round of ammunition is larger and does more damage than a 223 round. So there's just, there are valid arguments that, against the AR-15, but the ones that are being made are just so invalid. And I think that a lot of people who want to ban that rifle, the reason they're not getting much success with it is that they don't understand how it works and how it's built, how it's made, what would happen if that law was passed. So I'm certainly not going to go out of my way to tell them, but
right.
But
I got one comment here. Appears to be one of your students has something very nice to say about you.
JJ Djurdjevic. Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine. He actually has a podcast of his own.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he has a podcast called ATL Prime Sports here in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I think they're on Tuesday nights. I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but they talk all things sports. He actually
Cool.
does some color commentary for the HSBCU games. So
Okay.
yeah, he's been a good buddy of mine, and him and his wife have taken the class. So thank you, JJ, for the shout out.
All righty. And I know we've got, let's see, in the Rumble chat, we have one of my friends popped in, Jessica Reloaded. She actually streams on both YouTube and Rumble. We're going live on both right now. She's on YouTube and Rumble. She says howdy to us. She
Hello.
lives in the wonderful, not so free state of California.
Oh no,
Jessica, dear, we love you, but move to a free state, darling.
We're praying for you.
Yeah,
we're praying for you.
We really are. But and again, like I was saying, with Minnie and her mom, they were able to go out and become not great, but competent at 25-ish yards with an AR on day one.
Right.
And now, subsequently, she and I have gone out and we've worked with several different handguns. I've got several from the Palmetto State collection. She kind of likes the Dagger Compact, which I don't know if you've seen any of the PSA guns.
I have one. Yeah.
Okay.
The Dagger.
I've got, she was playing yesterday with a Smith Shield Easy and a PSA Dagger Compact. And then I've also got a Rock 5.7.
Right.
I've got a collection.
I've got a buddy who is interested in the 5.7, and I'm not too educated on those. I probably, once I get my FFL here in the next month, I will be trying to get one for them. But I went and shot them, and they're very fun. They're not very fun to load because it's like loading a mini AR magazine. But yeah, they're just so darn. The ammo is just so ridiculous on those, so expensive. But he seemed to be a little bit better with the recoil on that. So
it's a lower recoil on the cartridge because again, it's basically a 40 grain projectile. Right. 25 to 40 grain projectile. Yeah. Jessica saying her brother custom built his AR. She loves shooting it. Unfortunately, he can no longer take you to the range with us. I'm sorry, Jess.
Yeah, I actually just bought a build kit for I've built a couple ARs. I don't get too much into the gunsmithing and everything. There's some stuff where I got to kind of tuck my ego away and take it on down to the gunsmith. But I did just buy some of the Palmetto State build kits for Black Friday, and see if I can't build one here. See how bad I can mess it up.
See, I've done. I haven't built one from scratch, but I've built a few from parts and different stages of
completion. Yeah.
Tinkered around with and then changed a few things out and tweaked and customized and changed the hand guard and moved this or,
Have you gotten into suppressors yet?
No, I haven't gotten into suppressors, although it's funny you mentioned that. We went to the range last night, I did with Minnie, and someone like 2 lanes over with us was shooting something. I don't know what it was, but it was suppressed. You could tell that it was not at an indoor range. It was not, it was suppressed something.
I have,
and she's like, there was something really quiet about that. I said, he could have been using some kind of suppressor or something on it. She looked at me. I said, like a silencer. I hate calling them a silencer because it doesn't silence, it muffles, but
yeah.
And she goes, aren't those illegal? And I was like, okay, we need to start talking about different items. Do you remember all my complaining about the braces and the NFA stuff? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't gone down that road yet. Now, I did build 2 300 ARs.
Okay, 300 blackout, yeah.
Yeah, 300 blackout that would be really nice to suppress at some point.
Yeah, I have a buddy who has a 300 blackout, and I don't think he has a suppressor for it yet, but he was telling me that those do really well suppressed. So I might have to I have a AR suppressor by Daniel Defense. It's a little heavier than I would like it to be. It was my first suppressor I ever got. And I just, at the time, I don't think I did enough research on it. And I figured if it was Daniel Defense, it had to be top of the line. And it
Yeah.
is quality made, but it's just, I don't think suppressors are really their forte.
Right.
So it's super heavy, but it's great to get out. And I would not want to take it on, like, if I was a patrol officer or something like that. That wouldn't be
Right.
my go-to. But I also got a 45 suppressor, and originally I had it on a pistol. But before I got the suppressor before I got the pistol. Ended up putting it on a CMMG Banshee, which is those. It's a pistol caliber carbine. It was like an 8-inch carbine, and that was one of the funnest guns I've ever. It's kind of like a
Right.
plinking rifle. That was one of the funnest guns I've ever owned. But yeah, they're fun. It's just kind of that delayed. It's not like a gun where you go and pick it up that day. It's kind of that delayed satisfaction. So.
Right. I was explaining to her that if we went and we bought it that night, I said I can go buy it, do all the paperwork, this, that, and the other, pay tax stamp, everything, $200, send it all off, and then it's just like wait for whenever they get around to telling me that I can go get it. However, I can go still use it on the property at the range. So you are allowed to have conjugal visits, but
Yeah.
And she is looking at me and she's like, so you can buy it, you can own it, but you just have to wait to go through all this stuff to get it. Yeah. But I can walk out the door with the gun that I would put it on.
Right. Yeah. It's a confusing world out there.
And I think the same thing as
the
SBRs.
The wait time apparently has gone down. Now, when I got my first suppressor, that was back before COVID, and I waited a full year to get that. And then my second suppressor was like last year, the beginning of last year, or the year, or maybe the end of the year before. So that was, I think, about 8 months. But I think it's gone down even more than that, to where you can get it in like 4 months or something like that. It kind of depends.
See, I think if I'm going to go down that road, I'm going to go down with something for the 300 blackout.
Oh yeah,
the 300, they've got depending on the weight of the actual projectile, you can get the subsonic projectiles that'll be less than the sonic boom. If you're over about 210 grain projectile, it'll be less than the speed of sound, so you won't have your sonic boom. Those are the ones that work real well suppressed.
Yeah, that's what's so fun about the 45 suppressor, is it's already subsonic. But it's funny you say that, because when I got my AR suppressor, I was a little bit, I was new to it, and I was like, man, it's still pretty loud. So I was like, well, I can get this was funny. So I went and got subsonic 223 ammo. And I didn't realize this was a few years ago. So at the time, I learned a hard lesson that if you don't have an adjustable gas block in your AR, you can shoot one subsonic round, but it's not going to cycle through.
Yeah,
it's not going to cycle through. So we got all excited out there on the range. It was an outdoor range. I was like, I got my subsonic ammo. It's just going to sound like a little click, And I fired one round, and we were like, so we had to look it up, and we were like, oh no, we can't. We gotta rack it each time. So
you got to fix the gas blocker. Yeah, you have cycle issues.
Yeah.
And again, that's half the fun to me of dealing with this stuff and dealing with the guns. The minute you said, the subsonic, I was like, I wonder how that cycles.
Yeah. You got to get. I since have gotten a adjustable gas block, which they're only. I think I paid $50-$60 for mine. So
and it's pretty easy to swap out.
Yeah, it's not hard at all. And now the problem for me is now that I'm teaching, I mean, I never get to shoot on my own, because I typically don't shoot in front of my students. That's one thing that my training counselor, who got me certified with the USCCA, was like, maybe once you get up to a certain level, But you know, it's one of those things where you have somebody who's a beginner out there and you're shooting with them, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because you could be having a really, no matter what skill level you are personally shooting, you could have a bad day or a good day as far
Mm-hmm.
as accuracy. And if you have a really good day and you're sitting there, you know, making those little quarter inch, you know, those little quarter size groupings, uh, your beginner may think, well, what am I? They may get frustrated because they're like, what
Right.
am I doing that I'm not able to shoot like that? You know, I look like I'm holding the gun the same way. And it's even worse if you're having a bad day because they're sitting here going, man, I paid this money to this guy and he can't shoot his way out of a paper bag.
Right.
So yeah, I rarely get to shoot myself anymore. So I'm looking forward to. Matter of fact, that's why I don't teach the AR platform yet, because I feel like I need to get a little more proficient in it myself. I mean, I probably get out there once every couple months and fire off, you know, a couple hundred rounds. But which I mean, you know, teaching, you don't have to be a sharpshooter to be a good
Right.
instructor. It's about how you communicate the information. But
Right. And
personally, I like to know I'm a little more proficient before I start
mhm.
teaching it myself.
Now I'll tell you one big thing, and this is with all my classes, from my Guns 101 to my CWP or anything else, or when I was teaching some of the USCCA stuff. I told everybody, I said, we're not here doing, Chris Kyle, this ain't target shooting. This is a totally different mindset.
Right.
Because you think of the average target shooting adventure. If we're going to the range, you and I going for target shooting. Well, we know today that we're going tomorrow. And we've checked all our stuff off and we've loaded everything up, our range bags and this, that, and the other. We've rode out to the range, maybe stopped and picked up a bottle of water or a Gatorade on the way there. We've loaded up all the stuff, set up the range, gone over whatever range briefings we're going to, loaded up, then stood there. Then we start on a timer.
Yeah.
Okay. In personal defensive shooting, I'm walking out of Walmart with my groceries saying, damn it, they were out of lettuce, and now I've got to stop at Publix
Yeah.
on the way home, and I hope they're not too busy. And that girl who was in front of me at the line, I thought she was never going to get through it. And all of a sudden, there's someone in front of you with a knife.
Yeah.
And we're not putting on eyes and ears, and there's no timer going beep. And if we have a bad day on the range in an IPSC or an IDPA competition, we go home and we grouse about it over lunch.
Right.
If we have a bad day doing this, you might not go home.
Right. Yeah.
On the other side of that coin, they want groupings like this. I take a B-27 target and I put a paper plate in the middle of it, just about an 8-inch paper plate. I said, you see that? If you can put 8 out of 10 rounds in there under stress fire, you're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing better than half the blue lines on the road are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it is 0 to 60.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's one of the biggest things I go through with not just new gun owners. Like I said, with them, you don't have as many bad habits to break down, but you also don't have a bad mindset. A lot of people that carry a firearm every day, they go to the range and they're standing still, shooting at a target that's standing still, and they have this situation in their mind that they think over every day, which is good to think those things through, different type of situations you may be involved in, but they don't realize that 99.9% of the chances are the situation that actually happens is going to be nothing like you imagined, and you're going to be in a mindset that is completely out of frame. You know, I like to tell people it's even more so in home defense because you may feel like you have the upper hand because you're in your own home, but when you're in your house, the last thing that you're expecting is to be in a self-defense situation. I know there's some people out there who are outliers who, you know, they sit at home, that's all they think about. But
right.
a lot, and I like to tell people as well, and I like to use analogies, and I kind of compare it to, the fire department days for me is when a call would come in, you're in the middle of REM sleep. And there's times when we got to a fire call or just a medical call where I'm like, I don't even remember driving here. Like,
Right.
I do it by muscle memory, but you wake up in the middle of the night, you may be a great range shooter, but you wake up and you're in total REM sleep. Your wife or your husband's shaking you awake, or the dog barked and woke you up. There's somebody in your house or somebody breaking in your house, and you're in the middle of REM sleep. You can't even recite your own address. And then immediately your heart is going 200 beats per minute. So I like to tell people just not to scare them or anything, but just to keep that in mind, that the actual shooting or self-defense situation is not going to be anything like you think it is when we're sitting here in the classroom.
Right.
So that's why it's good to be as fundamentally proficient as possible, so you can, when that situation happens, you can just go into muscle memory.
Well, I teach a lot. I teach very much with the analogy of driving a car. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking to someone, okay, the first time you ever drove a car, you're like 15, 16 years old, may not have even had your learner's permit yet. Your buddy or your grandpa, your uncle, your mom, dad, whatever, took you out in the parking lot, in the middle of a wide open parking lot on a Saturday, or out on a farm truck that there was nothing within 100 yards that you could hit. Maybe that light post over there, but I'll miss it. And you were nervous and you were working on everything and looking for, you get to the point you're at now. What do you see? People getting up in the morning, going to work, and they've been driving so long, they can put their key in their engine without looking because they know exactly where that hole is.
Right.
They start the car, they put it in gear, they know where the gas is, the brake is, the radio is, and they can be going down the road, drinking a cup of coffee, eating a sausage biscuit, and putting on their makeup at 75 miles an hour like nothing.
Yes. Sounds like you're describing Atlanta. It's definitely Atlanta.
Well, I've driven down 285 a couple of times. I've lived through it, and I will say I have, my combat badge from 285.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to actually work years and years ago at Asheville Airport for National Car Rental, and I used to occasionally transport cars back and forth down to Hartsfield, back when Hartsfield was still Hartsfield.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And that, and well, I've been known to fly out of Delta a lot anyway.
Yeah.
But, again, you can get to the point that nowadays for these people, driving is a normal task. Okay, there's the blinker, there's this, there's that, there's the radio, turn it up, turn it down, whatever, reach, where's my phone, seat belts, it's there. You don't even think about it. Windows up, windows down, you're not even looking. Sorry. The core driving skill is a non-thinker. Imagine if your firearm manipulation is a total non-thinker.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's like I was joking. We took a weapon, saved it, no live ammo present. And I said, now just put some, put training rounds in the mag, some of these little gems.
Yeah.
And I said, now go through with your eyes closed.
Right.
Pick up the mag, load it, rack it, chamber it, drop it, clear it, lock it open, put the round back in the mag, and get to the point that all that is totally tactile feel, not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Get to the point you can do that as easily as you can reach for your radio or your seatbelt or your gear shift.
Right.
And that's just a reputation thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually started. I used to save the snap caps and the training rounds as far as the range use.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I use them obviously for demonstration in the classroom, no matter what.
Right.
But as far as range use, teaching how to uh, deal with malfunctions,
Mm-hmm.
I used to save that for an intermediate class, but
Right.
I've started even incorporating it into the basic class because at least towards the end, I need to do it a couple times so the person can realize, oh, there really is a lot more I need to learn than this
Right.
basic uh, basic handgun manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what I'll do is I will empty a mag and I'll load it up for them and I'll mix in, let's say it's a 15 round magazine. I'll put
Yep.
in 3 or 4 of the training rounds where they don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
And so they'll be shooting and something will happen and they've got to deal with the malfunction there.
Right. I play with that a little bit. I don't do it as part of the basic class, but I talk about these. And typically when someone goes through my class, a lot of times I'll get them like 1 or 2 of these because I get them bulk in whatever
Yeah.
caliber gun they've got that day. And it's like, I tell them, look, you can have somebody slip 1 or 2 in your round so you get a dud.
Yeah.
Or the other one that we did when we did our transition training up in North Carolina for law enforcement, we would have our coworkers load our magazines and we didn't know how many were in there.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Because in a live fire situation, what do you mean it's just locked open? That wasn't 15. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So what we'll do instead of going through all the 15, we'll have 5 in one, 10 in another, and they'll continuously keep putting them into your mag pouch with how many ever are in there. So you
Right.
have to engage multiple targets and then it locks back and you have to, okay, emergency reload.
Right.
And you don't know the next one. You might fire one, it locked back. So,
Yeah.
and we would practice that because when it locks back, it needs to be again automatically do this. And then the next one might have a dud load in it. Okay, tap, rack, and roll. Okay, go.
Yeah. I took a class with a buddy of mine, and the instructor did something like that, and he just put 1 live round in there, and then 15 snap caps, or no, 14 snap caps. So it was only 1 round. So he shot that first round, and then at this point we were at the end of class, so he was just kind of joking around. So usually, it should be sporadic, maybe 3 or 4 rounds out of 15, but he just put that 1 live round at the top, and then everything after that was a dud. So he was like, by the end of it, he was throwing his hands up like, all right, you're killing me here.
Right. But the biggest thing is that they were teaching us that, it's going to lock open. When it does, what should the automatic instinctive response be? Not, how did that get to 15 so fast?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to drop that mag or tap, rack, and roll.
Yeah. But, and again, that's where you get. Now, I know we talked about it beforehand. Georgia has gone constitutional carry. So basically, they don't need, there's no requirement for any class anymore. You're 21. Congratulations. Go forth and do great things.
Right.
How I have mixed emotions on that. I get a lot of grief around here. We were trying to get constitutional carry, and I was on board with it. But as much as I was on board with it, I also was on board with it with the caveat of I realize it's putting a heck of a lot of extra weight and responsibility on the individual.
Yeah, I really don't see a big difference because, maybe I got my concealed carry permit back when you had to have it, and this was like in 2000, I think it was 14 or 15, something like that.
Right.
And I mean, we filled out I think it was a 16 question questionnaire at the courthouse. and then it was like a week-long wait for the background check to come back. But there wasn't any class,
Okay.
even before they got rid of it.
Okay.
There wasn't any class you had to take to ensure that you're safe.
Right.
So, it's not like the people who did have in Georgia, at least. I know in some states, you like Arizona and stuff like that, you have to take a safety class in order to get your carry permit.
Right.
Which my bank account, by the way, actually kind of wishes that people did have to, but that's neither here nor
Right.
there.
Well,
No, but
I'll tell you, we're in a state where you have to do a class, and I see goods and bads. On
right,
one side, I see it. I've done a lot of very, very deep discount classes for people who I know are in a bad situation or something else.
right,
They need to get it, and I look at the 22-year-old, 23-year-old who's either going to school full time, doing this, doing that, and they may not be able to pay $100 for a class. Now,
right.
I had my last class. I think I did like 75 a piece for a couple of college kids,
Yeah,
but they were, someone referred them to me, and I'm like, okay, fine, it's your kids, I'll do it. And I was more of, this is someone who I taught with at EMS, who, when her son turned 21, sent them to me. And I
right.
was like, I got this. But I mean, I also have, some people, I don't want there to be a barrier to it. A couple of weeks ago, we had Carrie Sloan on. I don't know if you're familiar with her from We the Female. She's down in Georgia.
Okay, I haven't heard of her.
She does a lot with like DV survivors and stuff like that. And they did a big raffle for a Smith Shield and some other stuff. I know we donated a bunch of stuff for the raffle, and you might want to get with her at some point and see,
Sure, yeah.
But she works with these survivors and raises the money for them to be able to take classes.
Right.
I think, there's some states that you're looking $300-400 for a concealed carry class.
Yeah.
You tell someone who's leaving a violent relationship they can't even approach concealed carry without that. I have a problem.
Yeah. And yeah, that's definitely an issue. But like you were saying, like there hasn't really been a huge difference around here since they made it constitutional carry.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's a big difference that I can't see yet, but we just never had those requirements to begin with.
So you never had like a big class requirement to begin with.
No, we've never had that here, and maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea, because with that you're getting so many people come through that I would imagine you don't have to really charge a whole lot. There's more bulk than there is anything else. So, but yeah, I definitely I've had a not so many, but I've had a couple people reach out who I could tell were in maybe a sketchy situation where I'm like, we need to get you in as soon as possible instead of trying to wait till you can afford it and stuff like that.
And see, when I was in North Carolina, we didn't have CW. Well, we had passed it, I think, in '95 up there. But prior to that, people who were just interested in getting one for home use.
Yeah.
And it was like, there were more than one person who would be sort of referred over to me as far as, hey, can you go work with this person? Or, hey, are you off tomorrow? Can you take so-and-so out to the range? Or one of the local rangers we had some connections with said, look, I'm here. I'm running the front counter. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Is there any time you can come by this afternoon? I talked to Tom and he said you were off today. and it was right up the road. Hey, if you're around the house, can you come help this person? You know, they're looking at buying a gun and they're physically shaking as they pick it up too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. And we'd go up there, and you know, the right of self-protection, I never want there to be a financial barrier or whatever else on
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
In fact, my friend Minnie, one of her friends, you know, was talking to her about the fact that, you know, she was possibly interested. And I said, okay, great. Send her my way. Let's go. We'll take you both out to the range. Come on. We'll start from ground zero. And, you know, we'll start the first lesson. Come on by the house. We'll start with the 4 rules. We'll start playing with the plastic cert guns, and we'll work from there. And then we'll go to the range. And, you know, now I've got. But the thing is, I never want someone's safety and well-being to be something they budget for.
Right. That's absolutely right.
I've worked the EMS side of it for too long. And it's the same thing as I've had, you know, I had someone call me today. They're trying to get a urgent infant CPR class because of, apparently, I don't know the whole story, but it was the grandparents, I think, were calling me today trying to set up an urgent infant CPR class because of a very young baby who's going to be coming home from the from the NICU.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly in time for the holidays, if they can get like everyone in the family CPR trained in time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, yes. It's like, okay,
situation.
Here's the days I can't do it. You figure it out. I'll come to your house. I'll bring the man. I'll do this.
Right. You know? Absolutely. Yeah.
And
back to that about the concealed carry license, or it's a different term for it in every state, it seems. But I like to encourage all my students to get it anyways, because if they want to go ahead and buy another gun online or something like that, you know, it makes purchasing a firearm a lot easier because you don't have to go through you don't have to wait there in the store for an hour, maybe even come back like days later.
It's the check. They run the same check, but it streamlines it.
Yeah. And, you know, I like to tell people it's certainly, you know, that card, that license is not a license for you to do anything differently. So, you know, if you do have a self-defense situation where you have to use your firearm, it's not like the police are going to show up and see, you know, you hand them your concealed carry license and, you know, they're like, okay, well, this is justified then. But I will say this, and I'm sure you can agree, as someone who, you know, you show up on an emergency scene and you have all this information coming at you, who's who, what's what. I do think that, you know, if you've just been in a self-defense situation and you were a shooter, or maybe even both you and the aggressor were a shooter as well, you know, chances are the bad guy is not going to reach into his wallet and hand you his concealed carry license.
Right.
So I do think that with police, you know, it could help them more quickly start to put the pieces together, who's who.
Right.
So I always make sure I put that in caveat, like it doesn't afford you any rights to do anything that you couldn't do if you didn't have the license. But I do think it could help police, you know, start to paint a picture together of who's who if you do have to get involved with that.
And I mean, well, there's that, and now I will say there's a couple of other reasons why, even if we went constitutional here, I was telling people that I would still recommend it. Number one, it shows I've been trained and I know the laws.
Yeah.
There was, you know, at least here, you know, now it's required, but let's say they went, okay, constitutional tomorrow. Law enforcement runs into 3 people who have guns during the time of their shift. One of whom also has a card that says, yeah, South Carolina SLED says I can. And the other ones, you know, may or may not have any training.
Yeah.
may or may not, chances are, if I've got this card, I didn't buy it out of the back of a truck outside the Ingalls from Ray Ray and Pookie. Just saying.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is, my discussion before was, I understand the constitutional side of it, and I talked to some of the old guys, and oh, my permit is the 2A. Fine, okay, great. I get every bit of that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: if they don't know the laws, oops, what happens when something goes wrong?
Yeah.
Well, nobody told me. You're right.
That 2A can go away real quick when you're behind bars.
Well, so you pulled into the parking lot outside the post office.
Yeah.
Now, if the post office is in like a strip mall with a grocery store and a liquor store, you're fine with a gun in your car. If the post office is on its own piece of property and you say, well, I can't carry it inside, I can leave it in the car, you still brought it on federal property.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if a postal inspector saw you putting it in the center console, they can charge you federally.
Yeah.
Because anything that side of the sidewalk is federal property, not just in the building. And I always bring that up in my class because we have both versions of post offices here.
Yeah.
Now, if you park out on the main street, leave your car there, and walk up on the grass, you're fine. If you pull in the parking lot, you're on federal property with an illegal gun.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of intricate things
and
to
now,
it that people gotta learn.
If, again, I want, hey, everyone should be able to get a permit, get everything. The 2A is their permit. That's great. Where can you bring it? Where can you not bring it? What do you have to do? What are the rules about, And the other thing is, it's like, okay, let's say you're in Georgia, you have constitutional carry, and you go to visit your friend Sully up in South Carolina for a day. Your constitution ended at the state line.
Yeah, exactly.
And I told people, I said, so now I go back and forth to North Carolina up and down the mountain all the time. I had family up there until my mom passed away, but I still go up there all the time. I know a couple of great restaurants right up there. I'm just over the line. So now if I go over the line, if South Carolina is constitutional carry, but North Carolina is not, now I have no permit.
I used to have grandparents on both sides who lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and also Asheboro, North Carolina. Okay. So I used to have to go through South Carolina to get to North Carolina. And back when before we had constitutional carry, Georgia, I guess it's still this way if you do have your license. Georgia and North Carolina share reciprocity. They share, like, your license is recognized in North Carolina, but South Carolina it's not. So I usually pull over at the same.
Now, Georgia, aren't we recognizing Georgia now or no? I thought we finally changed that.
South Carolina might be. I don't know. It's been a while, but when I was traveling back and forth to North Carolina, I had to make sure that I stop at the same that big red fireworks outlet and make sure I take my gun out and put it in the back seat, put it in the trunk.
And do you know what one of the funny parts of it was? And I know why that was. We actually learned about it because there was a big furor about that. And the reason why Georgia and South Carolina could not get along.
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready? I remember Georgia, because they didn't require training. South Carolina, because we required at the time minimum training. They didn't want to give reciprocity to anybody who didn't have a training requirement.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a little bit of...
There was like, okay, if the standard is you have to go out and training and shoot 25 rounds with an instructor at 50 rounds at the time. Now it's down to 25 with an instructor. And yours is just paperwork and a records check.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were worried about that. There. Yeah. Now I know they did, I think, decide to play nice with each other. And I'm trying to check right now. In fact, you'll never guess what app I'm using. Reciprocity from the USCCA, of all things.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But let me see here. States that accept. But yeah, that was part of the reasoning, I know, for a while why they had that issue. And it was just crazy for me, but
yeah, it's a wild, intricate web of laws, that's for sure.
Right. And that's where, to me, again, I was always of the mindset of, okay, I flew out to Vegas and I was driving back. I was actually, it was bringing a friend of mine and her dog back. She worked EMS for us, went out there, got a contract gig at Nellis Air Force Base, did great things and everything else, started having a lot of medical problems, was upside down on her car payment, couldn't really get rid of the car. And she's like, she didn't know physically if she could handle the drive back from Vegas.
Right.
And she was an old friend. And so a few of us here decided that, well, I could take a couple days and go out there. So I flew out and was driving her car back with her dog in the front seat. Well, driving overnight in the middle of 2020 back from Vegas, I was going to clank when I walked.
Yeah.
I had one in my pocket, one inside my shirt, one on my waist, one in that knapsack over there. Yeah, and I was ready.
Yeah.
But I looked on the USCCA's app and it was very, very nice to be able to I had printed copies of everything that I researched from every state.
Yeah.
Because that way I was able to make sure. I figured even if something was out of date or slightly wrong, if I showed an officer on the side of the road, hey, look, I tried.
Yeah. Yeah, it's USCCA has been such a great tool, not just for me as an instructor to help turn, a hobby into a career, but it really as a gun owner, even before I became an instructor, knowing that you can go on the app, you can kind of just tell them where you're going and they'll plot that out for you. It's just such a great tool. That a lot of other organizations don't offer.
Right. I've had, like I said, nothing but good things about that. Trying to see here. I'm going to have to look it up later. But so now I know you do the USCCA classes. You also do a bunch of other stuff, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So about a year ago, right around the time, shortly after I became an instructor, my dad was sick at the time and I was having to take care of him. And I realized that, there may be times when either I will have a hard time teaching or just based on schedule, or, people will have a hard time, based on the economy, which is tanked, may have a hard time affording to take classes. I realized that, I really needed to develop, multiple streams of income. So I kind of thought about it and I was like, well, I'm really interested in the firearms industry and all the 9 million products that go along with it. So I went ahead and got I started to become more, from the beginning as an instructor, I really wanted my website to kind of stand out from others because I noticed that a lot of the instructors, their website kind of looked like, tumbleweeds going across it, not a lot going on. So I just kind of thought of it from a potential customer, potential student perspective. What do they want to see? Well, I think they want to see a more interactive website that looks like there's a lot more going on. And after I became a lot better at, managing the website and everything, I thought, I think I could do product sales, products related to the classes I teach. So those products can sell, for instance, if I'm doing the emergency first aid class, we in the class we use the CAT tourniquet, we use the chest seals, we use the SAM splints, we use the bandaging, everything like that. If I have those products for sale in my store, the student may not know where to go get a CAT tourniquet.
Right.
Well, we've got it right here.
Right.
And so I went ahead and got my Georgia resale permit to actually sell physical goods. And I just started developing relationships with some of the gear distributors. A couple that I use are tactical gear distributors. They're actually in Aberdeen, North Carolina. I have a deal with North American Rescue to carry the CAT tourniquets and all of their stuff. And all the different, Magpul, Maglula, all the different products like that. So I kind of started my online store and really got into that and started selling a lot of these accessories nationwide. Some of the first aid kits. As a matter of fact, I got a couple right here. These are from North American Rescue. This is a basic bleeding control kit. It's got the CAT tourniquet in there. It's got, I think it's got some of the emergency bandaging in it. So these are pre-assembled. They're available on our website, psdefensesolutions.com/shop. Shipping's available nationwide. Recently, I have a lot of friends who are police officers, and I for my own education and my students' education, I watch a lot of the body cam footage that shows self-defense thing. I like to tell my students, obviously police officers are there in a much different capacity. They're actually pursuing the crime, not just reacting to it. But once you're engaged in a self-defense shootout, it's not that much different than the police. They're protecting themselves first and foremost. So once you're engaged in a shootout, watching a body cam footage is kind of like a bit of education. And one of the things that I've noticed that officers lack is well, not necessarily lack, but they'll have a first aid kit, but it'll be 100 yards away back in their car. And so I've started carrying these. These are actual North American Rescue, what they call IPOCs, or individual patrol officer kit. It's got the emergency trauma dressing, the CAT Gen 7 tourniquet in there. And we also sell the chest seals and everything like this. I even have a Peach State Defense Solutions first aid kit that I've assembled. It's kind of similar to the first kit. It's got everything from the trauma dressing, the compressed gauze, gloves, the CAT 7 tourniquet. It's got two of the chest seals in there, and I have those on sale right now. So yeah, I've got a little bit of everything from emergency first aid all the way to pepper spray.
Because I was looking through your website. I've got the website pulled up here for you. But I was looking through, and there's actually a pretty good selection of stuff.
And I'm adding stuff literally every week. We're adding in stuff. I just added in ammo. I don't have a wide selection of ammo yet, but there's more to come. Yeah, I'm trying to add as much stuff in there as possible. I usually have discounts going on if you sign up for the newsletter. But yeah, just anything from gun cleaning. I have a lot of gun cleaning supplies. From Breakthrough Clean, from Slip 2000. I've got all the USCCA books on there. A lot of my students will take the class, and they will enjoy those books so much because it's not a boring book. It's like a coffee table style book, and they'll come back to get those more of them for gifts and everything. I have
And I
the
like these little chamber flags. These are cute. Remove
yeah,
before
yeah,
pew pew. Yeah.
yeah. That was actually the first deal I signed was with a company called Trigger Safe, and they make those trigger guard covers that work for the Glock and the AR-15.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no limit to what I'm going to be carrying. And like I was telling you off air, I just had a meeting. This is really exciting news for me. Um, this morning, I just had a sit down meeting with the ATF, and here in the next 2 to 4 weeks, I should have my FFL license. So I will be jumping headfirst into gun sales through my website, through gun broker, and at gun shows, and here in class. So, a lot of my friends know this, but my vision is to have at least one training facility, gun shop. I have a big dream of taking this as far as it can go. I'd like
Right.
to have a facility here in the Metro Atlanta area, as well as a outdoor facility a little bit north of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Permitting sound ordinances and everything like that. I'd like to have an outdoor facility that I can use not only for students and for the public, but for law enforcement as well.
Right.
I've heard from a lot of my law enforcement friends that are involved with SWAT and special operations and things like that. That a lot of those smaller or even mid-size agencies don't have their own training facility, like a shoot house or something like that, where they can run through daytime and nighttime drills. So
Right.
these agencies will spend a buttload of money sending their SWAT team or whatever down to Gypstick, the Georgia Public Training Safety Center, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Public Safety Training Center, and having to take out money for hotel bookings and things like that. So I thought it would be a neat idea here in the future. Obviously starting off, I'm going to be in a classroom shop setting here in the Metro Atlanta area, probably North
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta. But kind of a 5-10 year goal is to have an outdoor facility where people can do a lot more long range shooting,
Right.
and law enforcement can come and maybe even do overnight stuff, because a lot of those agencies are getting into overnight operations, with night vision, things like that, for their special operation teams.
And see, that'd be a lot
Um,
of fun.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it would save them. If I could even, have some a ranch style setting where they can actually stay overnight and not have to pay an arm and a leg for
Right.
a hotel or something like that. So
Well, that's fantastic because I know, we talked and you have the background in the fire EMS side, but then, you really seem like you're taking off with this, and that's
oh
fantastic
yeah,
to see.
it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. I had no idea when I got into this that I was going to be so involved with the online and in-person product sales.
Right.
But it's been a lot of fun, and in between the uh, fire EMS career and doing this, I actually spent a few years at working at Home Depot, and
Mm-hmm.
they're an Atlanta-based company. And
Right.
at the time, I enjoyed working for them, but it
Right.
wasn't obviously it wasn't my passion or anything like
Right.
that. So I kind of was bummed out while I was working there because I kind of felt like it was a dead end job, something I didn't want to do. I didn't get a lot of
Right.
uh, personal, fulfillment out of doing. But to work for a big box company like Home Depot, you really, even if you're just a part time or full time associate, is you learn marketing and well, more importantly, merchandising, whether you want to or not. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know this, but sometimes uh, they put so much, billions of dollars into their merchandising and how they change the merchandising around every day and how they, advertise different things. So
Right.
without even knowing it, I really gained a lot of insight into marketing products and merchandising products. So it's actually kind of fallen into place for me, having some knowledge that I didn't even know I was going to be putting to use. So it's been fun, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I can't wait to get into a brick and mortar, obviously, because that really brings the majority of the crowd. But right
Right.
now, it's about building that online presence nationwide. I sell a lot of products here to Georgia people just because it's a word of mouth type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole different beast getting that online presence out nationwide.
Right.
So I'm battling through that with Google ads and things like this, but opportunities like this coming on a podcast like this is definitely great to get that name out there and let people know that this brand is here nationwide for nationwide
Mm-hmm.
sales. I currently don't ship to most of my products to Hawaii and Alaska, but that will be changing here soon.
Okay.
And there's only a couple products I can't that I won't be selling nationwide, and that's just mainly like the ammunition. I don't
Right.
think I'll be shipping to New York and California. Um,
Right.
but I've been hearing so many conflicting reports on, I've heard people say that it's not even, there's nothing against shipping ammo to New York or California, depending on who's buying it. So that I'm kind of holding off on now. The
Right.
ammo is available on my website, but I'm really gearing up for to really dive headfirst into the gun sales now. Ever
Right.
since I got interested in guns, I've really become kind of a student of the game of the firearms industry. Just knowing, what each gun goes for, all the different brands and manufacturers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to getting involved with that.
And I think you've got a really good time. Like I said, we're seeing more and more first-time buyers, and we're seeing more and more, like you said, females getting involved.
Absolutely.
And you know, I'm not going to say necessarily to cater to the female market. I will
Right.
say take into account they're 50% of your potential customers. And
Yeah.
that's a problem I've seen with some gun stores. I'm not going to mention any names of any certain big box retailers or anything else. And
Yeah.
it's no one that I deal with currently. But that being said, when I was in North Carolina, I had a colleague who was about 5'1", 5'2", long blonde hair, absolutely knockout 22-year-old blonde,
Right.
who had to get a short notice, was looking for a holster for Smith & Wesson Model 60. And she went out and she, went to the local store that we dealt with all the time. And he said, well, I can get it, but I got to order it in. And I order from them about once every 2 weeks, and I get a bunch from them. So if you need it before then, you may want to check, see who has one in stock, go to the local big box. She went out and excuse me, I stand corrected. It wasn't Model 60, it was for a Ruger SP 101 5-shot.
Okay.
And, you know, she told them she was looking to get a holster for, Ruger SP 101, and they're like, oh, okay. And they asked, was it for her boyfriend?
Yeah.
And they asked 2 or 3 really, really, really stupid questions. And no, it's for mine. And they're like, Ruger SP 101? Yeah. And she's like, yeah. And, what they did not know is this young lady was someone I worked with. She was a law enforcement officer. She is someone who I'd be more than happy to go through a doorway with tonight. She's an
Right.
old near and dear friend to this day. And the thing was, she was looking for a way to carry her backup gun working plainclothes.
Right.
That's all she was looking for, because she couldn't really figure out a way to figure out the whole SIG 220 working plainclothes. She wanted to carry her backup.
Yeah.
And, she walked out of there and she's like, I am never going back in that damn place again. And I said, no, you have to go back again. You have to go back again. And she's like, why? I said, you have to go back in uniform.
Oh, yeah. I would love to be there for that. Yeah.
Oh, she and another female went back a couple days later.
Raided the place?
No, just went in and said, I wanted to see who that guy was who came out here. I was here the other day and I saw so-and-so and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, and she talked to the manager and she says, I'll be honest with you. She said, I have a lot of, females who ask me as a female, where should I go? Where should I do this? Where should I do that? She said, I will never send another one anywhere near here. I will warn them not to.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, tell that little horn dog who was trying to get my phone number, and that's what it turned into. It was like, why don't you give me your number? Maybe if something comes in, I'll call you, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on.
And that, I get it. He's not running the business. He's just the counter help and everything else. But the bottom line was she went in there with a very simple purpose. If they had the right holster, which I don't know if remember what they had or didn't have, but it ended up to the point of she told me that, if she ever needed anything possibly from there again, she'd send me in there. She felt dirty going in there.
Yeah.
How much business do you think it cost those idiots?
A lot. Yeah. You're right. The market for females has gone up so much. As a matter of fact, I was going to say, I would say right now, it's probably either 60-40 or 70-30 for me teaching women.
Mm-hmm.
And they are probably my favorite people to teach because they come there, they're purpose driven. They don't need to know, they don't have the ego. They don't need to know every fancy term for everything. They just are there for the right reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have to break down their ego, and all my male students have been great. I haven't had a single male student really that has come in, saying that they already know this, but I know I have been in classes where there have been those students where it's like, if you already know this, then why'd you take the class,
Right.
But yeah, it's I like to tell people, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so glad about having some firearms here in class to sell here soon. It's that it's really you'll have a lot of women who do have a smaller frame hand, so a smaller firearm works good for them. But once they get in to see that the smaller firearm a lot of times means more recoil, they will find a way to find a common ground, like a Glock 19 that has, in the scheme of Glocks, a smaller frame, but it's got some more weight to it, or a SIG. The SIG 365 XL has been great because the normal 365 is kind of in my opinion, too short of a barrel. It's a little too poppy. But that with the longer barrel, and I think SIGs are a little more heavy than some of the Glocks. So I have a lot of success with that. You mentioned the easy slide.
For new shooters, that is the one I start them off on because I don't want their first manipulating a firearm experience to be a problem. It's the same thing as if we were doing personal training. We wouldn't go out and say, okay, how many reps can you do with the 20-pound dumbbell? We'll start with the 5. We'll work up.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, to learn the basic, this is how you chamber, this is how you clear and everything else, then we can build from there.
Right. I've even had some male students who gravitated towards the easy slide. And I know that they have Smith & Wesson. I love Smith & Wesson. I like to tell people that's where I feel like price meets quality. Because, like one of my carry guns is a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 2.0. It's like a 4-inch barrel. And I think when I got it, it was like 550 or something brand new. I think now it's like right at 500 brand new, which is a great deal. And it's one of my most accurate. I threw an Apex trigger on there, and it's one of my most accurate guns. But the Smith & Wesson Equalizer, the new kind of revamped model of the Easy Slide, it's got a full capacity, 15 rounds. It's available without a thumb safety because some people prefer it without a thumb safety, and it just depends. I had mixed emotions on that, but Smith & Wesson on the Easy Slide, it's like their safety was almost too big. It was too pronounced to where you could accidentally activate it.
You see, to me, the Smith or because I've got a Shield and a Shield 2.0, and I've got the Shield EZ. And I'll be honest with you, on all of them, the ones I've gotten, or the variants I've gotten, the safety is so minor or so well hidden as compared to, say, my 1911 and my Browning.
Right.
Even if I'm using it, I won't activate the thumb safety.
Right.
And the reason I won't is in a cockeyed grip in a lethal force encounter situation, it's too easy to miss that damn thing.
Yeah.
And if you click, you've got a problem.
Yeah. I teach my students. I never tell my students, don't get a gun with a thumb safety on it, because I don't want to be that guy who's like,
right,
who says don't get a gun without a safety and then something happens. But I just tell people that it's best to, like, I teach my students. I start them off with the Glock. I will vary from that a lot. Sometimes I'll start them off with my Smith & Wesson or a SIG, but I like to start them right off the bat without honing in too much on the thumb safety, because it's better to have a thumb safety there and be like, okay, I have that option, but know how to manipulate the gun without a thumb safety safely, than it is to have them relying on that thumb safety. So yeah, I have kind of mixed emotions. Like I said, I don't tell people, stay away from guns with thumb safeties or anything.
right.
But when I first started carrying, I had when I first started carrying, I felt like I needed, it was more comfortable for me to carry with a thumb safety on there because I was just new to it. But now, like, I personally, I prefer a gun without a thumb safety on it.
Now, it's the funny thing is, I tell people when we're going over in like Guns 101 or like the South Carolina CWP, I say, okay, every car you get into is going to have a steering wheel and a gas pedal and a brake pedal. Okay. Now, if the gear shift is up here or down here or on the dash or a knob over there, kind of be different. That's kind of like your decocker. It's kind of like a cruise control. I can show you this Taurus that has a decocking lever, this Smith that has a decocking lever, this Smith that doesn't, and this 1911 that doesn't. Not every car is going to have a cruise control. If your car has cruise control, you need to know where the controls are.
Right.
Now, not every car is going to have a cassette deck. If you find yourself driving a car with a cassette deck or a CD player, well, you might need to know how to control it. If your car has a nav system on it, you probably need to know where the controls are for it. If you have paddle shifters, not many cars do, but if you do, you need to know. But again, we know this is the trigger. We know this is the mag release. We know this is the slide lock. Those every cars has. Beyond that, be comfortable and be familiar with what your specific vehicle has.
Right.
Much like I always tell people when I was doing CPR classes with AEDs, okay, everything's going to have a power switch. Everything's going to connect pad somewhere. Everything's going to have a shock button. Beyond that, if it's got CPR prompt, or it's got this, or it's got that, or it speaks 3 languages, or, does the dishes,
Yeah.
But, me personally, like I said, I've always said with the thumb safeties, and again, I'll pull out my Browning High Power 1911 and the Smith, and I'm like, if you've got this, be wary. If it's activated, you may get a click, and that needs to be a troubleshooting in your mind for that gun.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Why is that not?
How do you feel about the with the easy slide? Well, I'm sure it's like this with some of the 1911s too. How do you feel about the fastback safety? The safety on the
beaver tail?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that is making sure that the gun has got a solid grip. So that's, to me, I wouldn't want to say a better safety, but it's a passive safety.
Right.
That's the airbag that's going to work, whether or not you thought to put the seatbelt on or not, whether or not you thought to activate your thumb safety or not. That is going to work all the time. It automatically, if you put the gun down, it's going to reset.
Yeah.
It's.
And I've heard some people. I mean, when I had I don't have the easy slide anymore, so I don't have any with a beaver tail safety. But I've heard some arguments that if you're in a self-defense situation and you've fallen over or something, or you're not in you got to grab the gun real quick, you may not be able to get a good enough grip on it before you need to fire it. But I guess you need to. I mean, you need to have a good grip on it.
I want to say, now I haven't checked mine, but I will check it and see, and I'll actually post it up in the comments of the video if anyone's interested. I'll put my trigger scale on that and see how much force it takes to actually depress that beaver tail safety.
Yeah,
I'd be willing to bet it's under 2 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not it's not a significant accomplishment. I don't even notice it. And with my 1911, I don't notice it.
Yeah.
And to me, like I said, that's the passive safety, because the thumb safety, say on the 1911 or the Browning, it's an active safety. I've got to physically do something to make it happen.
Right.
The other one, if you're not holding that gun right, it ain't going to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I've never heard of someone having an issue. But I mean, I guess possibility. I'm going to check, because you got me thinking now. But I'm going to put a trigger scale on that, the 1911, and on the Smith EZ. Now I know you mentioned the Glock. I'll tell you, PSA is working on a Dagger Micro Compact, which is going to mirror the Glock 43.
Okay. Yeah.
And this comes pretty much straight out of the mouth of PSA. I was shooting there last night.
Yeah.
And I told them that I had gotten their Admiral 1911 and loved it. I had gotten their Dagger Compact and loved it. I didn't think I was going to get the Dagger full size, but I had gotten the Dagger Compact on a deal, loved it. I had gotten the Rock 5.7. So far, so good, loved it. Done the first 50 or so rounds out of it, but it's still new and still making up my mind. And I did the first look at it on the channel the other night. We're going to do something subsequent, but
have you had any jams with that Rock 5.7?
When I will say that I think the first time I chambered it, brand new, it didn't quite chamber properly, but I think that was more operator error than anything else. Because subsequent to that, I never had anything problem. And I think what it was is I was riding the slide a little bit too much instead of slingshotting it enough.
Yeah.
I will say, once it's shooting, it shoots great. Like I said, I've 50 rounds through it so far.
Right.
One downside, and I did it on a video the other night, the model I got was more designed for optics than it was designed for just regular use. And so as a result, the sights on it were not very good as a baseline, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Now, if I was to take it and be doing, I'm going to put all the latest, greatest optics on it or whatever, then it would have been fine. I got it, straight out and did not have any optic on it. And I'm trying to see here if I can find. Yeah, let's see. This is it here. Zoom out.
Do you carry with a red dot?
No.
Yeah, neither do I.
But this was what I had the other day. If you see the way the front sight looks like on there.
Oh, wow.
Now, that was a standard post front sight. And when you first look at it, your rear sights are washed out completely.
Right.
And I was not, I won't say I was unhappy with it, but just not a fan of that. If that
almost looks
sense.
like a rifle, almost like maybe an MP5 front sight.
Right.
Like the center post of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, in the interest of fairness, the PSA, this also did come with the optics cutouts and everything else on it. So, in talking to them, they pretty much said the reason that, they didn't put a lot of oomph into that sight is because this was designed to be the optics ready gun, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So
I did notice PSA really seems like they've stepped their game up. Not that they were bad at first, but that new Saber rifle they have, it's like a 308, and the PSA Jackal.
Yeah.
I got to shoot those, and man, the quality of the metals on that almost seemed like it was a Daniel Defense weight to it, just a more dense metal. So it seems like they're really getting into the deep end on that.
I've got to say, and just, I don't work for PSA. I don't get paid by PSA, but the Admiral, the Admiral was made by primarily Rock Island Armory for PSA. It's 1911 model. They've got two 1911s in 45, and they've got the one in 10 millimeter. I got the $500 one in 45, which was the tactical version that had the underside serrations on it, had the ambidextrous safety, had the check ring on the grips. For $500, I had a fiber optic front sight. For $500, that was a damn nice gun.
Yeah.
The Dagger Compact, damn nice gun. The Rock, again, the only thing out of everything about it that I've been able to say anything is, well, I could probably do better on the front sights.
Yeah.
Now,
never seen
do they make them with better front sights? Yes. But mine also came with the optics cutout, and it actually came with all the little attachment points for different optics. So if I do decide to go all optics ready, I've got all the attachment plates for the different brands of optics that came with it.
Right.
And that was at $425.
That's pretty good.
Two magazines, nylon carrying case, nice nylon carrying case. Let's see.
How do you like their that new facility they got?
Which you mean? Which new facility here?
I think Palmetto State Armory's got a new building. I thought they did.
I went to the one up in Greenville. Now this one again, here's came with decent manual with all the information, how to do all the mounting and everything. And this case, 2 mags, gun lock, and these pouches are actually nylon velcroed in place in here.
Yeah, looks kind of like the case for the FNX Tactical that I have.
Mm-hmm. But for me, for what that one was, I can't complain at all about it for $425. Yeah. And they are the cheapest of all the because I think there's only 4 companies really making making 5.7s right now.
Yeah,
because FN's in the deep end, and then you've got Smith, Ruger, and PSA.
Yeah, I tried out the Ruger and the Smith 5.7. The Smith 5.7, I felt like the grip felt a little funny in my hand. Couldn't really pinpoint what it was about that. My buddy agreed, but that Ruger 5.7 was pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. And like, was you talking about? Was it feel like it was a funny shape or?
Yeah, the Smith almost felt like it was about to like come out the front of your hand. Like I don't know. It may be the shape of my hand. I don't know, but it shot well. It kind of felt funny in my hand.
Mm-hmm. See, mine. This one was funny because I was doing the CWP class a couple of weeks ago, and we got talking about before one of my little icebreakers I always go is, folks, if you're going to ask me, there's a couple of questions that I can't answer in this class. And they're, class questions that will go on forever and a day. And I can say every word in the alphabet, every word in the dictionary, and tell you absolutely nothing at the same time. Don't ask me what gun to get or what the right gun for you is. If you are going out of here and asking me what car to buy, okay, well, if you want something sporty, get a Corvette, get a Tesla, get a Porsche, get something else. If you want something to haul hay for your barn, probably not a good choice.
Right.
If you're looking for something to haul the family, well, unless you can find a good way to duct tape a child seat to the T-tops on the Corvette, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You've got to look at what your purpose is, what you like, what feels good, what's comfortable to you. Now, I mentioned 2 or 3 places, and I'll tell them I don't get paid by X, Y, or Z, but they've got ranges and rental guns. And getting familiar with something and looking at different things. If you would buy a pair of shoes without trying them on, or buy a car without taking it for a test drive, you're having a problem. Yeah. So, get familiar with what's out there. Don't go buy the first thing you see. Don't go buy something because it's the right color. Don't, and so we go through a lot of that. And I say, also don't necessarily think that because something is a high dollar or a high branding or a great name behind it, it's right for you.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I've got a bunch of different brands of guns. I've owned everything from Smith to Taurus to Sig to, FN. I've, shot bunches of them. And I'll be honest with you, and was talking about the Dagger. I said, this one was Dagger Compact. I said, it was interesting. It was on super cheap sale. It looked kind of interesting. I went up, checked it out in the shop, said, well, let me try it. I talked to another person who was an instructor who had it. She liked it. She's far out west. But I said, okay, at that price, I'll try it. I tried it. I liked it. Now, I could have spent a couple $100 more bucks on it than what I did. I could have easily spent $200, $300, $400 more bucks on something down the line in the case. And yet this one shoots great and I like it and I'm happy with it. So don't sit there and say because it's not a Maserati or a, Lamborghini that your Ford 250 is wrong.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. We were talking about suppressors. You know, my first suppressor was that Daniel Defense. And don't get me wrong, every Daniel Defense rifle I've ever shot is just, it comes out the box, just pinpoint,
right?
Not one flaw, and they got a lifetime warranty.
Right.
But yeah, that suppressor, you know, I kind of got lured in by the name brand on it. I was gonna put it on a Daniel Defense MK18, but ended up getting a SIG M400 because it was like basically the same rifle for, you know, half the price. And man, I got kind of bit because that Daniel Defense, I mean, it weighs like, you know, a couple pounds, it feels like, and it just really weighs it down. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely
But it's like, so we got into it and we started talking about this one. I said, this one, honestly, if you heard $300 for, you know, a 9mm 15+1 gun, you'd be sitting there thinking, you know, okay, that's got to be like bargain bin stuff.
Yeah.
I like it. It's comfortable in my hand. I shoot it good. Well, the guy said, that's weird. Have you ever tried their rock? And I said, no. So we talked about him a little in class. He had just gotten the rock. Well, after he qualified, we're at the range, and he's like, yeah. And I would look because I was telling him we could go in the qualifications phase of, you know, load 5 or 6 in a magazine and do this and do this and do this and all the little checks. He's like, well, I've got 23. And he goes, you got 23 in there?
Yeah.
In both of them or just one of them or what? About what? So afterwards, I'm like, you mind if I try it out? Because I hadn't even shot ever 5.7, hadn't tried that. He's like, no, let me shoot a couple of rounds. I'm like, wow, this does feel different. It's, you know, shot it a few times. It's like, I kind of like it. So he let him try my dagger. He goes, yeah, I think I know where I'm going when I leave here today because they've got a special on.
Yeah.
And he left one range and drove to PSA.
Yeah.
Well, a couple days later, I'm flipping through and the $499 rock was on sale for $429.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that price.
And I went there, and like I said, it had all the cutouts, the milling of the slide done, all that stuff done. And I looked at the front, you know, the front sight, and he said, "Well, it's that height because it's made to work with a suppressor on the front, possibly, and or an optic, and co-witness with it." I was like, "Okay." And again, for me to swap out a sight is nothing. So I was like, "Okay." Or I could have gone $499 and gotten one with a different sight. So I was like, I'll go with this one.
Right.
$429 on sale. Took it home. Love how it shot 50 rounds through it, but was having real trouble picking up the front sight rapidly. So I was like, okay, side job.
Yeah, man, I would love to come up to that facility sometime. I know they got a good operation going there, and it seems like their products are really taking off.
Well, see, they've got several stores. I think the main facility is the one in Columbia. I go to the one in Greenville, but I'm sort of halfway betwixt and between. But they've got, I think, 6 stores now, 7 stores.
Yeah, let me look. I'm looking right now. New location because I think they just opened a new facility.
Myrtle Beach, maybe.
Celebrates their new location. Yeah, Myrtle Beach. Yeah.
Okay. Now, where I'm at, when you were coming up to go to Charlotte, did you come up, what, 85?
Yeah.
Okay. When you came up 85 and you would see the little cutoff for the Southern Connector for like 185 to go to Donaldson Center or whatever, or you'd see like Highway 25 in Greenville, that's where I'm at.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm right up here in the upstate. I'm halfway between Greenville and Charlotte.
Okay, gotcha.
So for me, I can run out of here and go up to Greenville to PSI. It's like 30 minutes from the house.
Yeah.
So I don't get to see their new stuff down in the low country at all. But the cool thing is they're right across the street from Costco. So, yeah. Costco, Woodruff Road, says Costco, fill up with gas, get everything done and Okay.
Gas and guns, man.
I bought another gun. And,
what's better than gas and guns?
Well, right down the street, I stopped by yesterday, Total Wine, and picked up a couple of new flavors of sake I'm going to be trying out this week.
There you go.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
Well, sir, I have enjoyed it. Folks, if you haven't had a chance, please go ahead, give us a thumbs up on the like, share this out. If you haven't, check out PS Defense Solutions. He's got a whole bunch of stuff on there. Their website is, pretty good as far as price-wise. I flipped through it and looked at a bunch of stuff. Definitely looks like reasonable prices. And again, let's face it, folks, let's support the small business, locally owned, operated, because I got news for you. You can order from all the big box stores you want, but when you need something, it's going to be the small business that takes care of you. And
absolutely.
Besides, some of these big box stores, I've gotten so fed up with, I'm just going to say that, my friend's little experience, I guess I'll out the store, and I'll just say, because, they don't sell much of firearms. They don't do much with the 2A community anymore because maybe
I know where you're going. You want me to guess for you?
Maybe it wasn't their fault that they were being dicks.
Yeah, I knew. I right when you said that, I had a feeling dicks is where you were going.
Well, that's the old question of why do we go to Academy? Because they're not dicks. Why do we go to Palmetto? Because they're not dicks. Why do we go to PS Defense Solutions? Because they're not dicks. You see a pattern here. But
there's a pattern. Oh, and right now I have it on my website that I have 15% off all products using the promo code Peach15 at checkout. Mm-hmm. Right now, I think I have it listed till the 20th. I'm going to go ahead and extend that out to Christmas, the 25th. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to have 15% off all products. You just put whatever you want in your basket and then enter code Peach15, one word, in checkout, and you get 15% off.
All right, good. Yep. Okay. And you're putting that up till Christmas. Cool deal.
Yeah, I'm going to extend that out until Christmas. Right after this, I'll get on the website and display that to be out till Christmas Day.
Well, there you go. And yes, definitely stuff, again, I'd rather support the local small business. Don't get me wrong, I love my Smiths and my Shields and everything else, but I've actually felt really good about the last two I bought were the Dagger and the Rock. And it's like, even though PSA is theoretically more of a big box than say you are.
Oh yeah. In the grand scheme, they're still pretty small business.
Well, at least the money is staying in my hometown. It's not going to China.
Absolutely.
Now,
and I wanted to say this: the Palmetto State. I've had a lot of great. Their blemish stuff is. I just built a whole AR 16-inch barrel using only blemished, and that whole rifle doesn't have one blemish that I can see.
Right. I was going to say, you mentioned the blemish stuff. I can say this. I bought a few things up there that are blemished, supposedly. And you might be able, in the right light, to see a little bit of bluing that might not be the same, or a little coating that might not be the... But when they sell something as blemished, that means it's only 99 and 44, 100% quality.
Yeah. Yeah, because I got the first thing I got was a stripped lower for my AR, and I was like, I looked back at my bill and I was like, did I get a blemished? Because I was sitting here looking at it, nothing that I can see with my eyes. And then when I got my complete upper, the barrel and rail and everything, there was like one little scratch, but nothing that I wasn't going to put on there anyways, just from like beating it up, So yeah, that's a great deal they got there at PSA.
And like I said, if you haven't had a chance to play with the Rock, fun time.
Yeah, I might have to grab one of those.
I'm looking to getting out there and getting some recall therapy. And so you're just down the road from me in Georgia, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
No.
I'm just outside of Atlanta. I'm in Stone Mountain, which is in
Okay.
Gwinnett County. I live about 3 miles from the mountain. So
you're north of Atlanta.
I'm kind of east. Yeah, a little bit northeast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm about 15 miles outside of Atlanta. So driving, that usually takes about 30 minutes, at least.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. 30 minutes to 9 hours, anywhere in
Yeah.
between there. So
Yeah, just don't let it snow.
yeah.
Yeah, the last time it was Atlanta got a dusting of snow, and 285 was closed for what, a week?
Yeah. Did you hear this story about do you remember, are familiar with, do you watch baseball at all?
A little bit.
Well, we have he's actually in LA now with the Dodgers, but Freddie Freeman was a player for the Braves, young guy. And Chipper Jones is another player who's a Hall of Famer now. He played for the Braves for many years. And Freddie, we had that storm. Man, I don't even remember what year it was now, years back. And people were trapped for days on 400, 985.
We're not
And
joking, folks. There was like 3 inches of snow, and people were camping in their cars for weeks.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman got trapped on, I don't remember if it was 400 or 985. And Chipper Jones, who's like a world known Hall of Famer, third
yeah.
baseman, he came and picked up Freddie Freeman on his 4-wheeler and just drove him back to their house, back to Chipper Jones' house. And you can look at it online. Chipper Jones has his, he's got all his camo, winter gear on. And Freddie Freeman's got some skinny jeans and like some Louis Vuitton boots on, and he's freezing on the back of this 4-wheeler. So yeah, that was a huge ordeal.
Well, that's, we used to have fun. I had a great time in the blizzard in '93 living up in Asheville.
Oh yeah.
Because, I had front wheel drive car. I had a shovel in the back of it. I had sand and kitty litter in the back of it. Now, I ended up eventually getting stuck, and I got stuck at the airport that I worked at. But I had emergency blanket and fire department turnout gear with me from my volunteer company.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm good. I'm bunkering down in the back office at National Car Rental with fire gear on, the flash hood. And they're like warning people, if you go outside, you're going to get frostbite. And I'm like, I'm going outside to smoke one. Well, you'll get frostbite. It's this, it's that. No, I won't. Pull down the ear flaps on my helmet, fold down the visors.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm fine. And they're like, what about your feet? I'm like, have you ever heard of bunker boots?
Yeah.
And so I was out there with impunity. And then a couple days after we had lived in the airport at Asheville for a couple of days, we finally ended up where the weather was decent enough that we could try to walk to the hotels across I-26 bridge.
Yeah.
And there were like all these people wanting to walk over. And I was like, I'm going to just wear my fire gear. I'm good. I'm warm. I'm comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the people who were there who were like from Florida were not quite sure about what to do.
Yeah, we kind of freak out down here in Georgia too. There's so many hills, and Atlanta's very hilly. So yeah, it turns into chaos. I don't know. I think in South Carolina it's probably a little more flat. But yeah, it turns into chaos when we have ice on the streets here.
And I was always one of the ones when I was working on a QRV as a senior medic or even as shift lieutenant or onwards and upwards when I became education coordinator and everything else. I was always one of the ones that they nominated to go get the employees into work.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, okay, you're taking the 4-wheel drive 250. It's got chains like in the shed. Do you know how to put those on? Sure. Okay, good, because I don't. Can you put mine on? Yeah. And we'd be putting cables or chains or whatever on the 250s. And it's like, okay, you're going to be just taking people in and around town. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Greenville to get an employee off 85. What? You think you can make it there? Yeah, my
Yeah,
team.
It gets wild. It sure does.
And then, of course, someone would sit there. Damn Yankees. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yankees come in handy.
At least 2 nights a year, we come in handy.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. All righty. Well, sir, I have definitely enjoyed it, folks. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe up on the channels, check out his stuff. He may well be coming back. He and I also have been possibly talking about working on some educational offerings together because I think we can have some fun.
I do too. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, I definitely want to come back as much as possible. This is a great outlet for me. Me and my buddy, actually, the one who commented, JJ, he has his own podcast and he's worked on it for years. And there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And, he had told me I needed to start one. And I just was like, I don't know. I've got so many irons in the fire. So yeah, coming on a show like this would be definitely a lot of fun to do on a regular basis. So that'd be
definitely
great.
And like I said, I think we may talk about some stuff because I've got a few thoughts. I'll probably be hitting you up tomorrow or the next day.
Absolutely, man.
All righty. You have a good one. Be safe.
All right, you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Folks, that was John Simpson from Peach State Solution. I've been talking Palmetto up so much I almost forgot. Check his stuff out. He's got, again, website out there, and he does have that 15% off. He's putting it all the way up through Christmas Day. So, hey, definitely a chance to make a little discount on the side. And again, let's support our local small businesses, support our instructors, people who are trying to do right by the 2A community, because we are all in this together. Beyond that, folks, please be smart, be safe. Bye.